Hello and welcome back to 1874. You lucky people. Another video this evening, Friday evening. Myself, Dan Bardell, and Jacob Tanswell have decided to get together to try and have a little bit more of an in-depth look into where Marcus Rashford might line up for Aston Villa this season. This show is, as always, sponsored by Luke Roper, and if you want to get 20% off everything that Luke have to offer, then use the code TVV20. Just a couple of bits of admin before we start. Those of you may have noticed the thumbnail that we've trialed for this video. People might think this is a serious thing, but I actually genuinely, because whenever there's a question asked in a football video, the person who's presenting the video, there's always a picture of them looking like that. So I thought I'd just put it in there and see what happened, because I find it quite funny that every video like that, there's someone putting that pose. So that's why we put that in there for a bit of a laugh and a little bit of a joke. But if suddenly this video gets thousands and thousands and thousands of views, you'll see me doing that every single week. We'll see what kicks in with the algorithm. But you're a big fan of the thumb, Jacob.
I am. I saw it early today and I thought, wow, that's a look. But if it gets good views, then I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it as well. We can do like two of us. One look, we can do it looking at each other from corner to corner.
Either side.
Yeah, perfect.
I mean, it's not going to... I mean, I was going to say audio listeners won't know what we're talking about, but actually they will, because I see the thumbnail on audio as well. So, yeah, do check it out if you haven't noticed it. Absolutely great work from Lee Haynes. I do like the Emery and Rashford bit of the thumb, I will say. Not so keen on myself, especially as I shaved my beard too short today when I tried to give myself a trim. So, yeah, not a great day for me to have to take that photo. Second piece of admin is, for those that have already watched the match preview with Dave Reid and myself, there was a crackle gate. People questioning the crackle, and someone did say in the comments that it happened when Jacob was on last time as well. I've got to say, I've only ever noticed it when Dave Reid has spoken. So I think early doors we're getting to the bottom of it, that it's not an 1874 problem. It's not a Jacob Tanswell problem. It's looking purely like a Dave Reid problem here, isn't it? Because you're sounding okay, Jacob.
Yeah, I think I've improved my sound in recent times. I know we went through a bit of a dip of form, didn't we? Where
Really bad.
My audio was low, and we got a lot of stick for it, rightly so. But I think so far, the audio's been quite good in the last few weeks. So hopefully we can build on it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's since I've got in charge of the controls, I've got to say things have been a little more consistent. I'm not sure what that says about Adam Bates and Bates technology, given that my technical knowledge is pretty poor. But so far so good. Rich 1874 enjoying the thumbnail. When he saw it, he laughed. Yeah, let's go. Right, let's enough of that absolute nonsense. We've got 140 people live, currently 3 minutes in, Jacob, and they're all wanting to know, where is Marcus Rashford going to line up for Villa? You've been at the press conference today. I think it's probably a pretty good chance that he may line up as a number 9 centre forward on Sunday. But long term, obviously, we all know that is Ollie Watkins' position. First off, are you expecting him to line up centre forward on Sunday? And then second of all, we'll get into where you think he might line up more long term.
Yeah, I asked about Rashford's position today. Obviously, it's embargoed, and I'm not sure whether I'll use the quotes for 10:30 tonight or for the piece that will come out on Sunday or Monday, where we'll do a big read on how Rashford settled in. But yeah, I would expect him to play as a number 9. But what's great about what Villa have got now is that Emery really wants versatile options or multifaceted attackers. So although on paper he'll look like a number 9, that might not be the case. Donyell Marlin might go up there, or Asensio, or Morgan Rogers, for example. So I would expect him to play as number 9 with Ollie Watkins injured. But at the same time, I think he'll probably find himself in positions which are quite familiar to him on that left inside channel.
Because I did this earlier with Dave. In an Emery system, on paper you can certainly be playing in one position. For example, Ezri Konsa would be down as a right back on occasion, but realistically he's playing as a right centre back. So in Emery's system, you can be down on paper as a certain position, but that doesn't mean that's where you're going to be stationed. So I could see Sunday Rashford playing as a centre forward, for example, but actually on the ball, maybe he does drift more to the left-hand side. And if Rogers is playing as the central 10, he's the one who maybe carries the threat through the middle rather than being the one that drifts to the left, because usually he would drift more to the left-hand side. So what I'm trying to say is Rashford as a number 9 on Sunday isn't going to be playing the same way that Watkins would play as a number 9, because he's got his set positions and set triggers and things that he would need to do if he was playing in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, every player's got different strengths. So Emery will always try to utilize their best strengths and their favourite positions. So Watkins is more used to holding up with his back to goal, coming to feet to receive it from the centre backs of midfielders. Then Rashford, who wants to receive the ball in the half turn facing the opposition, and the way he can do that is by gravitating out wide. So he'll, naturally his inclination will be to go in that left channel between, or right channel, for example, between fullback and centre back, and hopefully utilise the strengths. And that's what Emery will want as well, where Morgan Rogers is probably more inclined to get the ball and drive in central areas between the lines. So he'll be in that area as well. So, although there'll be on paper a replacement for Ollie Watkins on Sunday, Donyell Marlin, Marcus Rashford, whoever plays up top, have all got different characteristics. That was changed, what the remit of the number 9 is.
Yeah. So longer term then with Rashford, Villa. I mean, Rashford. It's always been a talk about his whole career about he wants to play left hand side. That's the position that he sees himself is as an inside forward. Villa don't really play with an inside forward. The left player is normally, in fact, I say normally, probably every game the player on the left hand side has been more of a 10, whether that's been Jacob Ramsey, whether that's been John McGinn, whether it's been Morgan Rogers. The left hand side isn't a winger, isn't an inside forward. They're a number 10. Obviously, if Rashford was to play there on that left hand side, that isn't really his game. So how will that work?
Yeah, and that's one of the questions I had when Rashford was linked to Aston Villa. But speak to people at Villa, they think he can play anywhere across the front line, and that includes being on the right as a 10 and up front, and on the left. I think obviously Villa will know that his best strength is on the left, so they can get him into those positions as much as they can. That'll be fantastic. I've always wondered whether Villa can almost flip around their build-up structure, so the left wing can be the high one, the left back can be the more tucked into former back 3, and then the right winger becomes the right 10, and see if they can flip it around like that. But I think Emery's quite reluctant to do that. So the question is can Rashford play as a left 10 where a Jacob Ramsey would be, for example, or do you think he moves a bit more inside the pitch and be in the Morgan Rogers position, which is just behind Watkins, usually gravitating towards the right, but still quite central? So I think those are the key questions for him. I can't see him playing in that Leon Bailey position where he's furthest right. So I think we can take away that possibility and move into the other two positions, which obviously dovetail with Watkins. I still think he'll probably be as a left 10, maybe most likely, but at the same time, there's big competition in that position, isn't there?
Yeah, on that left hand side, obviously he's got the driving with the ball ability that is a pretty regular facet of whoever plays there. Whoever seems to play in that position is a decent ball carrier. McGinn, I think, is underrated as a ball carrier. Rogers and Ramsey are certainly ball carriers. So Rashford's kind of got that element. He would also be able to drive from that inside 10 position centrally and carry the ball in that way and get shots off and be a threat getting into the box. I think Rogers has been really good at in recent weeks, crashing the box. You'd imagine Rashford would be able to do that. Well, that kind of the creative side of the game, because I guess that would be the skill set that isn't at the top of what Marcus Rashford can do.
Yeah, like you say, he's not a classic number 10 who's going to unpick a lock. He's more of a drive with the ball, shoot from long range. But when I think of Rashford at his best, and I actually asked Emery this today, I think of him on transition. I think of him a guy that is running it behind, and even if he doesn't receive the ball, he'll keep doing it, and that requires confidence, it requires patience, but also fitness, because you've got to do 10 or maybe 10 to 15 sprints in behind a game, and you probably receive the ball 3 or 4 times maybe, but it's about those repetitive sprints that you do. And Rashford can be a different type of number 10 to a Ramsey or a Rogers, for example. He can be the one that he can come to feet, but he can also go in behind as well. So rather than it just being Watkins who stretches in behind, I think there could be quite a nice elastic movement between Rashford and Watkins in terms of who shows for the ball, who goes in behind, and it probably adds a little bit more variation to Villa.
Because what I've noticed this season, probably more so than last season and the half a season before under Emery, we always talked about Watkins being central, staying kind of within the width of the penalty area and not drifting too much wide. I've noticed this season, actually, for whatever reason, I'm not sure what it is, I don't know whether it's because it's Rogers as a 10 or whatever behind him. He has had a tendency to drift out a little bit more this season, I would say, in terms of, I would need to say a heat map or something, but I think he spent more time on the left-hand side this season than he would have done last season if you look at how Villa build up and how they transition and how they play. With that in mind, you kind of you reference there the kind of interchanges and the fluidity. If Watkins has brought that back into his game, kind of running from in to out, then you've then got Rashford dovetailing him, running out to in, which is a kind of nice bit of tactical manoeuvring, I would say.
Funny you should say that. Today, actually, for a piece we're doing after the Tottenham game, we've actually helped create a Watkins heat map from the last couple of years and a Rashford heat map as well. And although they play in on paper different positions, Watkins a 9, Rashford's left forward, the way Emery's system functions is they basically, if it all goes to plan, they both end up in a similar position. So, left hand side of the box, cutting in on their right foot, shooting, and that's how both teams want to play. So, the way for Watkins, I don't think he makes big channel runs. I wrote a piece that Villa still want their strikers to stay central, but at the right times, Watkins will make that run outside. Because if you look when Villa are getting pressed, deep in their own half, in side of a pitch, so let's imagine Pau Torres getting pressed in the Villa's left-hand side. Normally, every other team, their striker would make a big channel run down the sideline, and Torres would play it over the top, and that would just relieve the pressure. Where Emery doesn't want that; he wants short passes to play out of pressure. And probably when the ball goes over the halfway line, you then see Watkins make that movement where he spins from in to out into that left channel and receive the ball. And that's where Rashford, in that 2020-21 season, when Man United were brilliant on transition, would always get the ball. So I think they both make that similar movement. And I think Watkins has probably been going a little bit more into the channels, but he doesn't go into the channels all the time when the ball's deep. He only goes when the ball's being progressed into midfield, and he makes that perfect movement, because by him making that movement, there's now space in the middle for Rodgers to drive, or hopefully Rashford to drive as well.
I guess I've just spoke about Watkins and said the kind of in to out run. I guess it's the in to out to in run. There's kind of three bits to that, isn't there?
Yeah, and that's where it's going to be so difficult to coach, right? Villa haven't got much time. In the next week or so, they've got a few good consistent training sessions, but they've got a lot of games coming up after next week. So there's not really much time to improve the movements. I remember with Watkins and Diaby on tour in the 2023 season, what Emery would show them clips together of how they want movements to work, and they'd show clips of former players that he worked with, Edison Cavani, Carlos Bacca. It's going to be very difficult, but at the same time, for analysis or through walkthroughs on the training field, they've got to really work on this movement. It's going to be very difficult to achieve, but I think those two playing together are more suitable than Duran and Watkins playing together.
Yeah, we won't ever say that again, but it's fair to say it didn't really work. I can remember one game where I thought that it kind of worked when he came on against Wolves and we won 3-1 at home, but generally when the pair of them were on the pitch, it wasn't good for Villa, and it actually made them worse. Thinking about Rashford, let's move away from the left-hand side. If he was to play as the support striker, so think Diaby last season, think Rodgers at the start of this season. Obviously McGinn and Tielemans have played there as well, but I'd say they're playing more as actual number 10s in that role rather than the second striker. If Rashford's to play there, it's more of a second striker, more akin to what we saw with Diaby last season. Is that something you think Villa might look at? Because it feels like of all the positions for Villa when Diaby played there, that was the one that had the kind of least defensive work.
Yeah, and also it's where you have the pace, really, because you get the ball, you can drive straight away. And Diaby's pace in the early part of that season was fantastic. And in some ways, I kind of wish Rashford was left-footed, because Diaby would obviously gravitate to that other channel, and he'd be able to cut in on his left foot and shoot. But I think with Rashford, he can still do that. He's got a good long-range shot, so he can do that type of skill. But at the same time, I do think playing as a number 10 is something that Villa think he can do, but he's not done it often, because Man United never really played with a number 10 that's not called Bruno Fernandes. So I think he can do that. It'll be a different type of number 10, and I think it will work. I would like to see Ramsey, Rodgers, and Rashford. The triple R behind Watkins. I think that can be some nice balance if they get it right.
I mean, we've done other shows this week talking about the volume of options that Villa now have in the attacking position, so we won't do that again. But even you just saying that, it feels absolutely ridiculous. Are we ruling out the right hand side completely? Is that, I know he has played there. He's never looked great there for Manchester United, but for Villa maybe it would be different.
Wide right, I think. I think it's not. I wouldn't rule that out completely, but it'd be very unlikely only towards the end of games, I think probably Villa are chasing matches that you probably see him there. But they've got other options there: Bailey, Asensio.
Yeah. So I didn't want to have this video being too long. To be honest, we've already done a video today, and the short form on YouTube with the thumbnail combined could be an absolute deadly combination for us here, Jacob. But if you had to stick your neck out now and say where's he going to operate for Villa, what would you go for?
I'd probably say as the left 10,
right,
and then you have a Rodgers in that central area behind Watkins, and then take your pick on the right. I would say along there. I think Emery will be very keen just to simplify things early on and say, right, your best thing or your best attribute is in that inside left channel, cutting in on your right foot or getting into 1v1s in that inside channel. We're going to get you there straight away and just simplify everything for Rashford. So I probably see him playing there. But again, with Watkins' injury, you might see him in a slightly different position against Spurs.
Yeah, but Dave and I obviously did the preview. Do go and watch the preview if you haven't done so already. But I did want to ask you. Me and Dave didn't really cover it, but I wanted to ask you because you were in the press conference. What have you made of the squad registration for the Champions League? Because obviously 2 players had to miss out. Is there a little bit of an element here of Villa getting it a little bit wrong in thinking that they might be able to register 4 new players?
I think
of that?
I don't want to speak ill, but maybe I think that could be a possibility. I tweeted yesterday that I thought it would be Marlon. A few people sensed it would be Marlon and obviously Garcia as well, which I don't know if it sits right because they're the 2 permanent signings, but it would never be Rashford and it would never be Asensio. So I thought it was between Disasi and Marlon, but considering you're paying the 5 million loan fee for Disasi, centre back you kind of pretty light there still.
Yeah.
Sadly it'd be Marlon, but I don't think Villa would overly prepare for that, shall we say.
I understand it, look, for the reasons that you've just given. But Marlon is the permanent Aston Villa player who I'm assuming one of the main reasons he wanted to join was because he still got to play Champions League football.
Yeah.
It's got to be a kick in the teeth for him because he when he joined, there's no way he would have sat there and thought, well, I'm not going to be playing the Champions League this season.
Yeah, we got a piece out tomorrow and there's actually a quote from Marlon when he signed saying that basically Champions League was a big factor in me signing, but Emery took quite a positive spin on it today. He said maybe if Marlon helps us in the Premier League and the FA Cup, we can get in the Champions League next year and he can play. So I'm sure that's a difficult conversation for him to have yesterday. I feel for Andres Garcia as well. He's only young, 22 today, and he would have loved to play in the Champions League. But for Marlon, he was the big name that's excluded.
I mean, like someone had to miss out, and I was guessing if someone else had been left out, we'd be having the same discussion. That to say would never have been Rashford out of all of them. I don't think he's the last choice to be left out. But you know what I mean? He's come to play Champions League, probably a big attraction to him because Manchester United weren't in the Champions League. Get himself back on the big stage for some games, and whoever you're leaving out, there's going to be that conversation. But I don't know, it just does feel particularly harsh on Marlon. Do you think he'll play then? Do you think he'll get the kind of carrot of playing on Sunday to make up for this?
Yeah, I imagine he'll start and play, most of the game, if not all of the game. He needs to get some game time. He's short of it in the last month or so. Same with Rashford. They need to build up their inherent fitness as well, don't they? So they need some game time. It'll be interesting to see the new signings who can play. Obviously, Disasi can't. I think it'll be a really interesting game. Usually, Emery doesn't take FA Cup games too seriously, and Villa are notoriously quite poor in them. But at Villa Park against Tottenham, who are on the ropes, got a manager fighting for their life, for all the new signings and I think the jubilance of that last 48 hours of the window. I think it'll be a really interesting game. But yeah, the jury's out whether the window was a success in my eyes. But they can certainly start and prove me wrong, or not prove me wrong, but prove evidence.
Jacob, you really are on the warpath after you've. I'm having some problems on this channel this week. Dave Reid's got a dodgy setup somewhere along the lines. You thought that the goal was disallowed against Wolves, and now you've just said that. I read it. This week. So what's going on?
I still rated it a 7 out of 10 though, didn't I? So let's just remember that. I still think it could be good. It could be excellent. But also at the same time, and maybe 2 months' time, we think, my word, that was an awful window. We just don't know. And that's the beauty of football. I did see Greg was at Birmingham. It's a very good piece if people haven't read it.
I did read it. It was an interesting piece.
But I did wonder if there'll be any comments about that.
Yeah, 3 pod ban for Greg. Incoming a 2 weeks wages fine as well for Greg Evans. So I'd rather he went and played golf, which bores me to tears, than go there, to be honest. But it was an interesting place, and that's actually is a really intriguing tie against Newcastle at the weekend in the FA Cup. Okay, then Jacob, I'll let you go. I know you've been travelling backwards and forwards from down south into Birmingham and back today, so you can go and enjoy the rest of your night. But thanks for doing that show with me. We kept it. We've tried to get it in all week and not managed to. But on a Friday night, we've managed to have the chat I've been trying to have all week. So that's good.
It's been a busy week, mate. It's been a busy week.
You'd think the week after deadline day it might calm down a little bit, but actually I've felt the same. I've still felt the impact of I'm still so tired. I'm just not caught up.
Yeah, I can't wait to have a few days off next week. That's for sure.
Right, but we're not complaining though because we're in the industry.
We love it,
so no complaints at all. But yeah, you can get tired, and I look awful without a beard. That's a big mistake this morning with the Clippers. Won't be doing that again. Right then, let's go. Jacob Tanswell confirms Marcus Rashford number 9 on Sunday, and then left 10 for the rest of the season. So thank you very much, Jacob. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in and joined us live, and thanks to everyone that will go on to listen and watch as well. Boring myself saying this, but if you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be absolutely brilliant. A comment on Spotify and the 5 stars on Apple Podcasts as well. And comment on YouTube and subscribe with your post notifications on, please. Do go back and check out the match preview for Sunday's game that Dave and I did earlier. That should be on your feeds now, wherever you get your podcast, whether it be video or audio. And yeah, that does us. Back on Monday to review the Spurs game. So watch out for that and have a great weekend. Those of you that are going on Sunday, I will see you there. And as always, up the Villa.